Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Hello, everyone. It's Jessica Payne here. Welcome to Jessica Payne Live. I'm your host, Jessica Payne. I'm drinking coffee. It's a beautiful day. How is everybody doing? Oh my gosh, I've already got two rock stars that are here. Brigetti, how you doing? And Robert, how are you? I know that you can speak to this topic. I'm actually really keen to hear what you have to say. Today's topic is a little different. It's more focused on our role as business owners, people who run their own shop, CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs, coaches, maybe you sell a service. We spend a lot of time running a business. And one of the first lessons I learned the hard way was how to start learning to say no and create boundaries. So, hey, Dwayne, how are you? Good to see you. Hope all is well up in Canada. I know you can probably speak to this too. And by all means, I'm going to see if I can get a link, guest link up the old-fashioned way. If any of you are keen to come on camera. Today's topic is all about setting boundaries. And it had to do with, I was doing some thinking over the weekend and having other conversations with friends who have kind of jumped from corporate, we call it down here in the States, corporate America, to their own private practice, and, you know, just sort of commiserating on certain clients and how we deal with setting boundaries and saying no. I feel like this lesson I'm never going to stop learning. So it's like, why don't I make that a topic for discussion? Because I have some lessons I've learned in terms of saying no, setting boundaries, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. So that is what today is about. I thought I would share a few rules that I've established for myself based on lessons learned, and then some tools that I've recently started to use to help me set boundaries. But why don't we start out in the deep end? And here are my thoughts as to why I was slow to say no, and why I think other people, especially when we're starting our businesses, they're really young. We just want business. We just want clients. And raise your hand if within that first year of business, you learned the hard way about what it's like to not say no. My thoughts in terms of why we fail to say no, I think in my own personal is wrapped around this fear. So whether it's fear of a client walking away from your business, a fear of maybe getting a bad reputation as maybe someone who's not, I don't know, flexible. For me, it was a lack of education and experience. Like I was such a young business owner. I didn't go to business school. My field was communications. I didn't want to say no because I didn't know I could, and B, I had this fear wrapped around sort of what I didn't know, and what would have I been saying no to? And it wasn't until about maybe the first 8 or 9 months, it was around month 9 or 10 of my first year of business that I said yes to my first toxic client. And I learned the hard way. I knew I should have said no to a project. I didn't say no. And what happens? We overextend ourselves. That was my first hard lesson learned in terms of saying no. I'm really curious, you guys, have you experienced this? And when I say no, I mean setting boundaries. I mean, you know, not saying no can have different fallout. You can be burnt out. You can lose time with your family and friends. You can miss out on money. Saying no can mean anything, whatever it means to you in business. I'm really interested to hear what lessons you've learned. I am just going to take a quick second to show all your comments though, because you guys are already rocking and rolling. I knew that this subject would strike a chord. Robert, hey. Dwayne, hello. Kim, hello. Kim, you're saying you learned the hard way. I'm going to show your comment in just a second. Dwayne, I love it. The color green helps set boundaries. Tell me more about that, because I don't know if you're using your great sense of humor or if you actually have science to back that up. I never know with you. You have that great wit. Karen, yep, I had to learn that lesson. Karen, I'm dying to know. I'm pretty sure we share this. I can totally walk you guys through this example. I'm going to change names and entities to protect the innocent. Kim, but once you start doing it and are secure in it, then it gets easier. I think having the mindset that you don't need to have that fear is crucial. Totally. I think that's where we start, yes? And I think maybe the only there are only a handful of ways we can realize that that fear is not valid. I think for me, it was the lesson learned of saying yes to a toxic client, going through that horrible experience, limping out the other side, and I'm mentally making an agreement with myself, never again. Like that pain of managing that client and that project is not worth this fear that I'd created, and mostly around the unknown. I'd never really said no before. So that was my experience. But you're absolutely right. But once you start doing it and are secure in it, then it gets easier. Robert, you're saying when you're newer in the business realm, it is hard to say no. We want business and are willing to do whatever it takes. That was totally me. Up until like a couple years ago, that was absolutely me. In life, I have a hard time saying no. So you double that with like business and being a young business and being green. Like I'll be the first to admit saying no is tough, but it definitely gets easier. And we can say no different ways. We're not just talking about toxic clients. And when I say toxic clients, I think we can all relate I think another realm where it's difficult to say no is clients who might be friends or family. I'm just going to set that out there, but something tells me you guys know what I'm talking about. It's almost harder to say no to nice people than it is clients who we know are going to be sort of train wrecks. And I say that with love, because I could be a train wreck too, right? Dwayne, science. Set boundaries. So like lawns and stuff. Dwayne was saying the color green. So Dwayne, when you're talking about green and science, I love it. You're like bringing science in. So is it something as simple as like creating a pricing sheet with green borders on it, or maybe a cease and desist letter that has a nice green border? I don't know, but yeah, green does have that positive effect. Maybe there's no shocker that we see green on a lot of sales pages. And sales pages are boundaries too, not to get really in the weeds, but I was jotting down different examples of no or boundaries. And as we talk, I'll read them off. Oh man, Dwayne, you're getting deep and I love it. The heart chakra is green. Absolutely. And I say this a lot, and I know you can relate, and I don't think it's too woo-woo, but you can say no from a place of love and kindness. Because here's the thing, Kim, going back to your really awesome comment about fear. One thing I realized, and this was through my own experience and making really bad mistakes, is saying no. So whether it's no, you're not going to take on a freebie, saying no to a client you know is probably not a right fit, or maybe even saying no to a friend or a family member who, and you're trying to negotiate mentally in your head, saying yes to business, or simply saying no to someone who's not willing to pay your rate. That provides clarity on both sides, if you think about it. This is my rationale. No provides clarity on both sides because it's all about, for me, staying in my power and maintaining my value, because our time and our services have value, right? So as soon as I connected that piece, saying no provides clarity on both sides, that has helped me say no a lot easier. Does that resonate with you guys at all? But yeah, because no is as simple as having a sales page and your price, and someone being like, hey, offering a discount, which I think is so rude, but people don't know what they don't know. And saying no provides clarity. Nope, it's $39 a month. They now know that. Now they know, okay, no discount. And quite often these questions are innocent. So no provides clarity. If they want to buy your services, they'll come back and pay the rate. But the fact that you said no, you've now established like your value. Oh my gosh. Don't worry, guys. I'm going to read every comment. You guys are on fire. Should I talk about this topic more? I feel I was realizing I can sometimes go in the weeds talking about authenticity or social media, my two favorite subjects, but we're all business owners. So maybe I start to bring more business best practices into my show. Clearly, this is what you guys want to talk about. Truth, Kim says. Dwayne saying yes. Dwayne, I love it. Udemy's been on my brain lately. So the fact that you said it, I just recorded a Udemy course, Communication and Color. Dwayne, I'd love to check that out actually, if you wouldn't mind Do you have a link or something we could share? I would actually love to check that out. I love the science of color. I use it a lot on the web design and digital design end. And so I'm a huge fan of color and the meanings of color. Robert, no could also mean not right now. Robert, can you expand on that? I love that. Not right now. And I think it goes back to, I think it was Kim, right? You were saying like, or was it Dwayne about the heart chakra? It's sort of not right now is a nice way of saying no. You can say no in a nice way. I think there was an entrepreneur article that came out a while back, and it was all about saying no nicely. Not right now is fine, because that's another thing too. We fail to say, even if it's the perfect client in the perfect situation, and we're slammed, and we say yes when we should have said no, when we should have just said, can we talk in 30 days? I've just started to do that. That makes me a little nervous, because who wants to say no to a great opportunity? Nobody does. But that's another thing we can sometimes forget about, is saying no in our practice. The collateral damage of not saying no goes well beyond money lost. It's time. If we're working on the weekends, or we're missing out on our kids' important milestones, or if we can't make, if we can't be present in important chapters in our life, that's the fallout too. And that to me is, equally important. What do you guys think? Does that resonate? Karen, setting the mindset that you don't have to have that client, and saying no to a bad client even when you need the money. Truth. That's really honest. Thanks, Karen. I absolutely agree. Setting the mindset that you don't have to have that client, and saying no to a bad client even when you need the money. And that's why I said yes to a difficult client in my first year of business. I think a lot of people do that. It doesn't even have to be our first year of business. Like, I know there's going to be, feast or famine. I know there's going to be times down the road where I really have to gut check, why am I saying yes? Why am I saying yes? Which could be the first question. How about we start there, into when is the right time to say no? Maybe the first question we ask is like, do that gut check. Is saying yes to this going to benefit me in any way? Or am I just fixated on the cash? Love it, Kim. I'm totally going to show this. I think it's a great topic that affects every business owner. Cool beans. Then I'm just going to keep bringing it up. And because so many of you guys like it, if any of you guys want to be my guests on future shows where we hammer this out, I will totally give you the floor. I might even pull a Stephen Healy, who's awesome. He actually fills his screen with other people as guests, and he takes himself off. So it's the coolest thing. He gives people the stage. Kim, I'm a former teacher, and we were taught that we have to help all of our students. That was a tough change for me to make as I transitioned out of teaching and into business. I still might feel a little bad saying no, but I have trained my brain into seeing it as an opportunity for a better door to open with a different client. Real quick, Robert, let's just sit on that for a second, Kim. That's a biggie. Talk about a mindset, because your natural inclination is probably to try to help everybody. Maybe it's a little easier when some are paying you and some aren't. That's what's made it easier for me to say no, is going from when I was in corporate America, and again, saying no was difficult for me then. That was totally self-inflicted. I was burnt out mostly because of my own inability to set my own boundaries. I worked through lunch. I would triple book myself for meetings. It was really bad. And then the minute I switched over to running my business, where I was like, are you paying me or not? Actually became a really powerful filter. But yeah, it doesn't stop me from wanting to help people. And that's a tough one. Robert, you're saying I meant no, meaning not right now. If you don't know a lot about the subject or product yet, learn more about it first, then add to your portfolio of services. This is a really good point. I deal with this a lot. My old inclination, because when I worked on the agency side, you always had to be the sharpest tack in the room, the brightest object, speak first. I mean, it was very, very cutthroat in terms of trying to win new business. And I operated the same way when I started my business, and I annoyed the heck out of people really, really quickly. And part of it was wrapped up in I didn't have the discipline to say, not really in my wheelhouse. I will either introduce you to a partner who can really speak to this better, and not having an attachment to that, training my brain to think that's not me losing business. That's me actually establishing value as a resource, because 9 times out of 10, the same people come back to you. That was a big way, a big shift I did that helped me say no. Saying no, again, can mean, as Robert is saying, not right now. In my field, social media, this is really crucial, because I always have to be really honest with myself in terms of like, am I an expert in that? No. Like a good example are chatbots. I'm not an expert in chatbots. I can immediately refer you to someone who I absolutely trust with chatbots. Can I speak to chatbots? Yeah, I can eventually show my examples. But if someone came to me today asking me to run their chatbot campaign, the best thing I could do for them would say no. However, I know exactly who I'm going to partner you with. And to Robert's point, not right now. Maybe in a year or two, I might be an expert on chatbots. But yeah, it's that gut check, right? It's not always easy, especially as subject matter that you've been like a field like social media is constantly evolving. It's this love-hate relationship I have with it because it innovates so quickly. Yeah. Stay in your lane. RJ Redden is the queen of chatbots. Yeah, that's who I was speaking about. Totally. Yeah. But do you guys get the whole value thing? I'm really curious. All right, let's hear it. Do you have any horror stories? I won't tell anyone. It'll only be all over Facebook. It's fine. Protect the innocent. I'm actually really curious to hear, like, is any of this resonating? Can any of you relate? I feel like you probably can. Any lessons learned or good habits you do now? I'm really curious. I call it mission creep. You know that military term where you start off with one geographical area and one mission, and then 2 months, 6 months, 9 months later, the mission has changed and maybe the borders have changed. I think the same thing has to do with, like, we either carve clear borders around what we're willing and not willing to do. Otherwise it's like mission creep. And I think that's where we can all of a sudden find ourselves like, why did I say yes to that client? Or why did I agree to do that? Why did I do that? And then you go through the inner turmoil, you as in I do, right? Kim, it goes back to what you're saying. It's like, I think at the end of the day, we want to help as many people, but we have to realize our value, Robert. So many people use the fake it till you make it. Yes, I saw this yesterday. This makes the neck hair on the back of my neck vibrate. I hate it. This is bad business, in my opinion, being honest and saying I'm learning it right now so I can refer you right now until I get to, yes. I think at the end of the day, people are going to learn very, very quickly if you're bullshitting or not. I think we see a lot of people who are quote unquote experts or quote unquote entrepreneurs when really they're not. When 8 months ago, they were quote unquote experts in something else. I think it's getting easier and easier to spot those, and not just other business owners to other business owners. I'm hearing from other consumers. They're getting savvy. Our customers are smarter than ever. And I think they can spot a fake. It's wired in our DNA, or they'll pay for something and straight away they're going to either get the experience they pay for or not. I realize I'm behind a huge text wall. Right? Fake it till you make it. I think that's it has its moments. I think or like dress for the job you want is probably better, but it's like, you are not providing any sort of value if you're faking it. I think that the days of faking it till you make it are gone, because with 2 clicks, people can find out everything they can about you. And, smoke and mirrors is another phrase. Like, yeah. I would say that I totally agree with you, Robert. Don't make me come on screen. I know. Then I know. I feel like, Robert, you and I need a whole broadcast if it's just you and me. Kim, I can totally relate. Awesome. I'm super happy this strikes a chord. Let me look at my little notes here, y'all. That's being transparent. And I think transparency is like, I think there, am I wrong in thinking there's absolutely a place for open transparency in business when it comes to skill set? Like, what are your thoughts on that? My hunch is yes. I found that only allowing certain times of the week for meetings is quite advantageous. Ooh, I love this. Yeah, I love it. Let's start talking about boundaries. I only meet on certain days at certain times so that I can respect my own time to work and get things accomplished. Totally. I think, and that brings me to my next point. And I just love hearing that, Kim, because it's like saying no doesn't mean saying the word no. You can say no in other ways. And that is creating boundaries and sticking to them. So yeah, guys, jump on the bandwagon. Do you have an example of where you're really disciplined like Kim and you set boundaries? I love it. I'm the same way. On Tuesdays, because I'm here in the studio, I start early and I try to close early in terms of business. So I know not to schedule certain things on certain days. I can share some tools I use. I'm starting to use certain tools to create boundaries too. So this might sound really boring, but a couple of things I've done is, because I know another way of saying no for myself is creating boundaries, is to see if I can become more efficient, especially around the admin or menial tasks of running a business. Because for me, I know that mission creep. At the end of a week, I could spend 2-3 hours on admin that I know, okay, if I pay for a certain tool or if I delegate this out, I actually free my time. I'm actually saying no to like wasted time. That's the newest kind of shift that I've done. So part of this is around protecting my time. So a perfect example is I use a scheduling tool on my website called Cozy Cal. And you know, it's an automatic schedule. If you go to my website, you see a button that floats. It says like schedule a meeting, and you click on it, and it goes right into my schedule. It kind of automates that first. What used to be, let's get on the phone. It was essentially a free 15-minute consultation to even decide if people wanted a consultation that I realized I was sort of giving away for free. So now I've said no, and I've set a boundary to say my time is way too valuable. I only want people who are serious about working with me to actually get on the phone or get on a Zoom call. And so something as easy as like, I'm going to use a tool like Cozy Cal, and I'll link to it in the comments. It's just a scheduler. It syncs to my calendar. So by the time I hear from someone, they've gone to my calendar, they've booked a time, they've sent me information on what they want to talk about. I know that person is at least committed to that first conversation, and chances are they do want to work with me, versus I'll no longer waste my time trying to convince people to use social media or to use the website. That's not my role. My role is to execute, not convince. Does that make sense? That's the newest thing I've done to just like, again, I'm saying no to wasting more time in convincing. Have any of you tried anything like that or experienced something like that? RJ, I think that's a great development. Thanks, RJ. The queen of chatbots is here. RJ, you were mentioned earlier. We were trying to set the record for how quickly we could talk about you. But RJ is the queen of chatbots. I think everyone on here knows you and is a fan, which is awesome. We're talking about saying no, setting boundaries. I think I'm going to make this a regular. We could just come here and just vent if you want, guys. Believe you can and see the results. Dwayne, I should just hire you as my personal coach, like development coach. You're such a positive guy. I love it. 100%. Truth. Kim, I love it. Did I miss anybody? Awesome. Dwayne, I'm actually expanding. Yes, I do income tax returns for clients in Canada. So here's a perfect example. If someone came to me and was like, and I get questions all the time. Do you guys get questions all the time from other young businesses? They're like, hey, and Dwayne, this is more of a US thing, probably similar up there in Canada. They're like, should I be an LLC or an S Corp? Or how do you file your taxes? Here's another example of where you should say no. And Robert, to your point, own what you know and what you don't know. And Kim, like, my first reaction is, oh, I want to give him my advice because this helped me. But then it's like, do I want a 30-minute conversation about taxes, which is probably best done by someone like Dwayne or a CPA? Part of it is just giving out advice. What are you willing and willing not to give out? Not that you're protecting what you know, but it's more like, again, how do you want to spend your time? And saying, you know what, I'm not a tax professional. Here's what I've done, but you definitely want to talk to a tax professional. I had the same conversation this weekend. Someone was asking me what they should, how they should file their business. And it's like, again, I want to add clarity on both sides. I want to protect them, and I don't want to give out bad advice. So that's another thing. I wonder, do people come to you for business advice? It's like, I always have to remember, this is my experience. You know, CYA, if you know what that means. I ramble because I'm excited you're all here. Robert, isn't it amazing how using the word no is different depending on your position in business? As an owner or servicer, we get to say no for a variety of reasons to not take on the business. On the other hand, as a salesperson, they're taught no means you haven't sold me yet. Very true. Very, very true. And then from a customer's perspective, they might interpret no as something else. Yes, it reminds me of that scene in Wolf of Wall Street that I loathe because it's pitched as like being a genius about business, where as a woman, it doesn't resonate. Y'all remember that movie? Okay, Wolf of Wall Street with Leonardo DiCaprio, great movie. They're all sitting at the table and the guy's like, sell me on this pen. And everybody tries and everybody fails. It's your classic, and I roll my eyes because I can barely stand the scene. And then it doesn't allow, he finally picks up the pen and he says it's not for sale, something like that. And it's like this light bulb comes on over everyone's head, and supposedly this is like a stroke of genius. And the idea is telling someone something's not for sale makes them want it more. I have mixed feelings about that scene because A, that's not how you market to a woman, and it's touted as like the gospel in sales, because to me it shows actually how there's one way of doing sales, but how there's not another. But Robert, what you just said reminded me of that. Everyone has their own learned experience and their own perception. What you may feel is the right way to do things may not resonate. But yeah, Kim, RJ introduced me to the Be Focused app based on Pomodoro technique. That has helped me only work for 25 minutes and then take a 5-minute break. The ticking sound really helps me stay focused. My husband, however, can't stand it. Kim, but I bet your husband likes when you have more free time. That is awesome. The Pomodoro technique. RJ, awesome. Yeah, it's all about, I think one of the biggest things that we need to set boundaries on is actually our time, isn't it? And getting more and more efficient. Yeah. I think one of the biggest mistakes I made early on, again, because I just wanted business, I just wanted to help people, was I was giving away freebies. How many of you guys can relate to this? And I think freebies are okay every now and then, but I think obviously the priority goes to paid business, quality paid business. But there is still value, I think, in freebies. One thing I jotted down was, because I think some rules and tools, bringing it back to the focus here, is how can we evolve that? So instead of giving freebies, my advice would be, and this is my own lesson learned, is it should be at least a trade or a barter. And this has actually helped me. For example, and look at the stuff that you hate doing. Hate's a strong word. Look at the stuff that you dislike doing, or the stuff that you feel someone else could do, and think about what someone doing that for you, maybe what they can offer. Here's a perfect example. I write a lot. I write all day long for social media for clients. I don't like to proof. I don't like to sit and look for typos. I don't like grammar. I like to create. I hate it. I hate proofing documents. So I recently found someone who was willing to proof some documents and I traded her. She now has access to pieces of my course. All it took was a call out to one of the groups I belong to here on Facebook. I just asked. Here's one of the great secrets about Facebook and social media. If there's something that you should have someone else do, because again, part of saying no is setting boundaries, and part of boundary setting is knowing when to delegate something else, or knowing that you're better doing something else in that hour or 2 hours a week. And if there's someone out there who can actually trade you something of value, that is a win-win. I found someone who she's a copywriter. She loves proofing. She had an interest in some of my course. So we had a conversation. There was something I had of value. There was something she had of value. And boom, now she's working with me. And I can't tell you, like, the fact that I don't have to proof anymore is amazing. But I know that I didn't give that away for free. And so that's an example. So instead of freebies, my advice would be, why don't you find opportunities to trade? Do any of you guys trade or barter? Curious. And Facebook groups, because I know the first question I'm going to get is like, where's a good place to find people to trade with? Go to Facebook, different Facebook groups, because that's where you'll find kindred spirits, right? Gail, I get an adrenaline rush from saying no. I love it. She's like, no. I love knowing that I've opened it up an opportunity to say yes to something amazing. Yes, absolutely. That is such a beautiful way to translate it. Feels good to say no, doesn't it? Because you're basically sitting in your power. You're providing clarity, right? And it's probably that experience, the more you've said it, right, Gail? There's no more fear wrapped around it, right? It can actually, saying no can actually feel good, can feel great. I don't have those conversations anymore. They get 10 minutes to explain what their problem is, and then I refer them to someone who can help and has the time to be intentional about helping them. Absolutely. I'm assuming you're talking about the consultation calls. Yes, absolutely. If you provide a service, your first initial consultations should run no more than a first 15 minutes by the time you get them on the phone. Yeah. I haven't always been really good at this, because if a conversation's going well, it's going well. You don't want to get off the phone. But it's getting easier, I have to say. And people will respect your time. I think a lot of it is like, people don't know what they're asking is probably kind of rude. These are like friends who are like, hey, can you check out my website? Or, hey, can I pick your brain is a phrase I run from. If it's someone I really care about or I'm personally invested in, then I'll be like, yeah, sure, let's chat. Or, hey, let's go for coffee is another one I steer clear from. It's like, what do you really want to talk about? If you're looking for a free consultation, this is where you can say no nicely and say, actually, I'd love to catch up. Let's catch up over coffee. But if it's about business, let's actually talk on the phone. And then you can own those minutes and get them off the phone. Yeah. But again, I think it's coming from a place of they don't know what they're asking for is kind of on the borderline of being rude. I think what they're really saying is, hey, I recognize you as an expert. I know you can help me. I'm thinking of doing this. They're just in the very early stages. But that's where we have to say no in terms of, are we there to convince them, or are we there to provide a service? Indeed, he does. Kim, I think you're talking about Robert. I only trade with people I feel we both benefit from the relationship. Yes. I've done some bad trades before. I think the easiest way is to just experiment. So for me, so some examples of what I've traded before that have been really helpful are, and I think just the small trades, or if it's a big trade, like make sure it's even on both ends and then everyone's happy. Like for me, I've created a few social media graphics for people. And then at the on the other end, they've looked at an ad, or maybe they have advertising experience and they'll just proof some ad copy. It's always around proofing for me, because I know I hate it. So yeah, little teeny trades. It's a great way too to just meet other people and learn about businesses. I think a really common trade I see a lot is, hey, will you look at my homepage and I'll look at yours and just feed back to me what you see. I think that's a perfect example of a trade that makes sense, because you need feedback anyway. Nope, no fear. It's amazeballs. I should just record your voice saying no, Gail, and I'll be like, no. Just hit a button, like the easy button. Own the no. RJ, I feel like that's the hashtag of the show. You own it. You own it, though. I love it. Own the no. It's true. We have to own the yes. Own the no. Freudian slip. Because no, no is yes in disguise. If you really want to stretch it. Because by saying no, we're saying yes. Dwayne, I need to work on that first call. Dwayne, let's totally work on that together. I'm a huge fan of the buddy system. Yeah, this is like the latest thing I've done is that first initial call. In a way, it's almost like we all know where we probably spend too much time doing something. So if you want like homework or something to think about, here's what I do. Like on the weekend, typically after like my 4th cup of coffee at my cafe, I'll bring my little notebook. I say I'm not working, but I can't not. But I'll go to my cafe. I'll grab my pen and notebook, and I'll just kind of list down whatever comes to my mind. And this is what happened last weekend. I wrote down a couple of bullets of like, okay, where am I spending probably too much time doing stuff? Because I'm actually an efficiency nerd, probably because I totally own the fact that I used to have a really hard problem saying no. So Dwayne, that's where this one first came up for me. I was like, I spend way too much time on that first call. How can that be a better experience on both ends? And I looked at it more from a time standpoint than I'm making a sales standpoint. I think that'll resonate with you, Dwayne, because you're a mindful dude. And yeah, so it's like, yeah, just think about that first conversation, what happens, how much time you spend, and ways you can it's just pruning. RJ, is there something with pruning we can copyright? Gail, definitely takes practice and patience with yourself. Yes. This was a hard one for me to learn. I am not an expert. Daniel Geffen's podcast is actually called Can I Pick Your Brain? That makes me cringe. Like, I can't stand that phrase. Can I pick your brain? We all know what you want. You just want free advice. Just be open about it. I actually said no to someone recently. Hey, let's bang our heads together and run some ideas past each other. Opinions on your ideas can help. And yes, I actually said it that way. Right? It's like, I don't know if people know what they're asking half the time. Wow, you want me to do that for free? It's almost like I start to look at it from a place of, I always look at it from a place of they know not what they ask, and come from a place of love and caring. And I almost like giggle when I see these requests come. It's like, they're so not aware. So how can I still help them, right, Kim, to go back to your point of like, how can I actually be of service? Because I think we can still be of service, especially around people who clearly don't know what they're asking is probably too much. So, you know, for me, it's like, all right, how can I point them to the right person? How can I say no nicely? Yes, queen. Oh my gosh. I love all these comments. We could be like the Say No Squad. Should we get jackets? I know Robert's already thinking about it. I actually wrote notes, you guys. This is not like, this is me. This is my actual little fancy notebook. I'm old school, legal pad. There's a good random question. Are you old school with something you do for your business? Like with all the technology, do you still insist on doing something old school? For me, I like a good printout. I use recycled paper, but I like a good stapled deck of paper. Not a paper clip girl. I like it stapled. Is there something old school that you still do? For me, writing it down. I can't talk about my penmanship. It's horrible. In a way, it's shorthand. But I like a good, small, little legal pad like this. Is there something old school you do? Let's hear it. No jackets, mugs, okay to say no. That's a whole other conversation, but I like it. Mugs. Hello, Vistaprint. I've been thinking of it. I've been trying to come up with an excuse just to like, You know when you go on Vistaprint and you print out cards or whatever, and then they suggest all the other entities, like you can have a t-shirt or a pen. I'm like, oh, I would just love to fall down the rabbit hole. Just like create a slew of like branded stuff. Maybe I could put this up on Vistaprint and I created some mugs. Someone asked if I do tax returns, and then I gave them my price. His response was, I will do a draft myself. Yeah. And then, you know, when he gets audited, he'll realize that wasn't the way to go. That's another thing too. It's sort of like when we say no, we just have to say no and walk away. Even if we know that, like, I'm sure that's not going to turn into a pleasant experience for that guy. And I think part of that just comes with experience. I've had meetings, Dwayne, where I've talked to people, and I think one of the biggest things is people think they can do social media by themselves. Anyone can do social media, but if you want to do it at an expert level and you don't have experience like in any field, you're just kidding yourself. So I've had people say, you know, they're very serious. I think we all have. They get on a call, you give them your price, and then you can tell straight away whether they're serious or not. And then some people are like, okay, I think I'll try that on my own, which is probably their way of saying they don't have money, which I get it. They can answer it whatever way they want. And then you just see like they don't move forward with whatever. I love to write things down. I hate organizing the paper. I could see, yeah. You're like, I love writing things down, but I hate paper. I have a friend who loves organizing. She's got like the little thin, like she's got like the color coordinated. It's art. It really is. I could never be that organized. I love to write things down too. Isn't there a study, Dwayne? Why do I think that you're going to know this? Or maybe Robert, isn't there a study? I think that it's about the act of writing something down actually triggers something in the brain for us to actually remember. And I can't remember I can't remember where I learned, but total tangent. Students today are taking notes on laptops and they're not retaining the information because it requires way more brain power to type than it used to just take handwritten notes, because you listen more when you're taking a handwritten note, because I think how you translate that information to your hand, it creates the memory in your brain versus typing. And they're actually seeing a difference in retention with students. Isn't that fascinating? So writing down notes can actually do more for your brain than typing it. Isn't that amazing? I wrote down notes in college. Laptops were barely a thing then. I'm a Post-it boy, love them, have tons of them in many colors. Robert, we need to see some photos. Do you have one of those collages? Those ombre, it's like one wall just filled with Post-its. There are people that design entire buildings, walls of buildings and Post-its. It's amazing. You should own stock in Post-it. Who owns that? 3M? You should. I have one Post-it, but now the question is, Robert, are they the small or the big Post-its? I write an old school bullet point list as a script for my show and tape it to the side of my computer. Yes! Old school. I love that you tape it. That means you like tape. That's old school too. Love it. I actually print out my script too. Love it. Haha, Dwayne Richards, I'm sure that guy will totally regret not paying you to do it for him. He totally. You guys have the IRS up there in Canada? What's it called? Basically the people you never want to hear from. I want to get branded stuff for my show, Com Cafe, Colorful Conversations. I love the 4 C's there. Is that alliteration? Am I right? Love it. Dwayne, I'd buy a mug. Ooh, you should throw chakra in there. Then you'd have 5 C's. The floor and couch are covered with paper right now. Awesome. That's like an art installation. Pen to paper science. Yes, I knew you'd confirm that. I love Post-it notes. Robert, you hit it. You hit a chord here. People are loving it. I love Post-it notes. I just hate that it's not in one place. Google Drive. I know that's the thing now. Let's talk about that a little bit. If you guys are still with me, which I love the fact you are. Efficiency. I think efficiency is our biggest. Efficiency, pruning, discernment. That's like my jam this year. And probably because with taxes every year, you pay attention to maybe some expenses you should get rid of where you can tighten the screws. On the efficiency side, I'm trying to do the same thing to match that. Where am I kind of wasting time? Where should I delegate? I think delegating is a huge deal. CRA, IRS. Awesome. So 3 letters you basically never want to see or hear or read or get in the mail up in Canada. Here's a study showing writing with paper and pen is better. Awesome. Thanks, Robert. I'm so going to bookmark that. And I love that it's Nova. WGBH Boston, baby. Used to live there. Taking notes by hand can improve memory. That's a good tip. Like if there's something you're learning for the first time or it's something you need to stick, write it down. Love it. Thanks for sharing that, Robert. I'm definitely going to check that out. CRA, IRS. Totally. What else? Oh, so here's another tip that I wanted to share. I don't use it, but a friend does. Do any of you have a 24-hour cancellation policy? This is smart if, I think a lot of us here provide a service. This might be a good one for people maybe in the hospitality or health and wellness. If you get a lot of cancellations for something that you provide, this is a good example of saying no. I don't typically do this because I don't need to physically go somewhere and sell something or set something up. But this is a conversation I had over the weekend. If you get, and this goes back to those clients, those toxic clients, because I think toxic clients are those who won't commit. And our way of saying no is basically getting rid of them. But here's a good example of a simple border or boundary that you can set up if you need to start saying no. Because at the end of the day, if you have a client that cancels or you find that you have enough cancellations in 1 month that it's an inconvenience, I see that as time lost. And sometimes, I guess, depending on what you're doing, that could be money lost. Like if you have to rent a space, let's say you rent a space and someone cancels. I'd be irate. Luckily, I don't have to do that because a lot of my work is virtual. But a 24-hour cancellation policy, just like hotels, if you have to cancel last minute, or like I get one thing I do every month, it's a treat. I give myself self-care is I get a massage, and they have a 24 cancellation policy. I have to pay half. I've only canceled once because I showed up and I had a fever and I was literally in the parking lot going, this is not a good idea. I canceled about 20 minutes before the appointment and I was like, totally makes sense. I knew I should have canceled a couple days ago. I didn't. 24 cancellation policy is a good way of saying no before you have to. I don't use it, but I know that that's something as simple as you could communicate right on the homepage of your website or even in your booking policy. I thought that was brilliant. I named my Be Life TV CR4 Studios, and there's a C4 color mirror bottle, which is the heart chakra bottle. I want to see all this merchandise, Dwayne. Do you have a link? Robert, I only do the cancellation process for event. That's really, really smart. I don't do as many speaking opportunities as I'd like, and that's something I'm looking to dial up. So if you have a need. Well, I guess I speak every week on my show. That's actually really smart. Yeah, because that's your time. And especially if you have to travel, that's a total inconvenience. Another way, so the reverse of a 24 cancellation policy is, how many of you guys consult? So I know a lot of us offer a variety of services. So mine are, I do coaching, one-on-one coaching, a couple of calls a month. Every month you pay an installment. You keep me on board. Campaign management, I get a project, soup to nuts, I take it on board, or 3, my course. I think if one thing I've learned is, especially with consultations, or I don't know what your cap is, but if I have a project that is sort of under a certain price point, I demand payment up front. So like anything under 500, payment up front. Anything under 1,000, payment up front. If it's larger than a certain value, and maybe you do this to 1,500, 3,500, sometimes I will allow installments. But payment up front was something I started maybe my second year of business, that has helped me. Because I think like anything, I think at the end of the day, we're all just looking to take on people that are committed. And the easiest way to find out if someone's committed is to ask for payment, is to demand payment up front. So I offer flexibility because I think over a certain price point, I allow installments like monthly installment, for example. Because it's more similar to me being on retainer. Do any of you guys do that? I think most of us do. For some of it, it's a no-brainer. Like for one-on-one consulting for a certain price point, demand it up front. And then they'll renew on the monthly. Or you tell me, I'm curious. But that's one way I've been able to create boundaries. Not that people weren't paying, but it allowed me to basically eliminate people who weren't exactly serious to get started. And they always come back and want to start. I think people just need to wrap their head around the money. It's funny because it's like until they talk to you, they've never really. Some people come to me and they're not even sure if they're serious or not. So again, Dwayne, that kind of keeps that 15 minutes to be strategic versus me trying to convince them of the value of what it is they want versus here's the value of what I do. That's a whole other conversation. Should we do a show on the consultation calls? We could trade strategies on that because I think we all deal with that. All of my coaching clients are paid at the beginning of the month before we proceed. Yeah. Standard. Brilliant. Yes. Because the ones who aren't serious aren't going to pay, and you're not wasting your time. And again, the admin time, you don't have to chase. There's nothing, having to chase payment, no, doesn't work. And I think it's getting easier to automate payments. Like for my course, it's automated payment. I'm not going to chase you. You commit, you're signed on. And it's going to just, you pay monthly for my course. The one-on-one coaching, before we get off that last call, I already have you renewed for the next month. And I've sent you my PayPal. And before we move forward, you deposit. If it's a campaign, we have a contract signed. And you know what installment you're at. Yeah, it's very clear. It's clarity, right? And again, that's saying no, I don't do business any other way. Like that's a way of saying no too. Here's something interesting. I don't know if any of you deal with this. Sometimes this can come in. This is the mission creep of friends and family who want business that you want to say yes to. Sometimes a little flexibility goes a long way. They might ask. And plus, it takes a lot of courage. I respect that now. It takes a lot of courage for someone to ask, do you have a payment plan? Because they're basically saying, they're talking about money. A lot of people don't like to talk about money. So I actually encourage and embrace that conversation. And 9 times out of 10, I want to find a solution that works. A payment plan for something under 500 doesn't make sense. I basically say, let's come to me when you're ready. And quite often it's just a couple weeks later. It's like, come to me when you can assemble that. Like so that I can focus more on executing. For a larger project, let's say I'm doing everything from brand creation all the way through to website to social media. It's a multi-month long, 3 to 6 month project. Let's talk. But I've learned that too, not to immediately say no, but just to listen, because quite often people just need to have that conversation. Just like the membership group, pay first, then add to the group. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just like they would pay for anything else. New tires. The subscription model is really nice. I always use Netflix. It's funny because some people are like, well, how does it work? So I pay monthly. It's like, yeah, just like you pay for Netflix or just like you pay for Match.com or whatever. It's like, just use other examples of similar models and people immediately understand it. Yeah. I like the flexibility though, but it's just, saying no is just to make sure that you stick to your guns. What else? We'll come to the top of the hour. Can I share a couple other tools I use? These are more efficient tools, but ones that I have found can help me set boundaries. It's funny how like admin tools, I've become obsessed with it because again, it's efficiency. It's saying no to time being lost. It's actually saying yes to honoring your time. Yeah. Listening is an incredibly important skill. RJ, you're an awesome listener. I feel like I'm being heard. think that's all people want to do. They want to feel seen and they want to feel heard. And they're coming to us for our help. Customer service 101, right? My field, I was thinking about this. My field is actually called communications, but I think the most valuable skill, equally to creating a narrative and a clear message, is listening, because you can't do one without the other. So my degree on the wall there is in communications, but I should probably, Robert, I'm going to put a little post-it up there that says listening. Boston University, I have a BS in listening, which could be a whole other joke. RJ, what did you say? LOL. Yeah, people want someone to listen. Absolutely. Can I say a shout out to other people? It looks like we've got BB here. How you doing, BB? We've got Annabelle. What's up? Guys, this is awesome. I feel we should do a number 2. I've learned a ton just talking with you and listening to you. If there's one thing I love about live video, it's the fact that I think that's pretty much how I've met all of you. And I try to watch your shows when I can. And I learned so much. Like RJ, Steven, Robert, Dwayne, it's like, you guys don't know half the time, but I have you on my phone, like propped up on my counter, and I'm doing something else, but you're like my radio, my jam. Because it's like, they're my friends. And you guys are always dropping awesome knowledge. And I learned a ton. How to work with my clients, style. I think part of saying no too is committing to your own style too. There are people that run their business in ways I would never run to my business, but I respect it. Like Gary Vay, I respect a lot of what he talks about. He's that entrepreneur. He's all about the hustle. His style is something I'd never take on board, but I like what he says. And I think he'd have a lot to say about saying no. Okay, a couple of tools I use. This is kind of a no-brainer, but again, it's all about that mission creep. To people starting their business for the first time, one thing I always share, because I didn't do this at first, is get another phone number besides your own, and don't use your personal email. In fact, most websites don't even list an email anymore. They have a contact form because of spam and stuff. So one, from a spam perspective, but also I think it's important for us to create boundaries. It's not that I never give my cell phone out. Typically after the first conversation or the second conversation, I have clients that prefer to communicate via text. Once you're a client, you've got my cell, because that's actually an easy way for me to get a hold of you. But if you're a client that tends to require more hand holding, or maybe you just, we all have those clients that kind of, there's a line in terms of what they've paid to receive and what they expect, and you just have to be nice and diplomatic. Having voicemail is powerful. Not picking up the phone with unidentified callers. If you're on a phone call, don't switch over. Stuff like that. This is more customer service 101, but it's like, say no to reacting. Give yourself time. If you have 5 minutes before a call and you see an email come through, if you know you need to take that 5 minutes to prep and to be of the best, greatest value to that client, don't answer that email. Take that 5 minutes. I've been doing this a little bit more. It's saying no to, not distraction, but something you could easily perceive as like, oh, I'll be really efficient. I'll just drop that email real quick and then jump on my Zoom. It's like, actually, no. If I know that I need to be in a better headspace to serve this client and I require 5 minutes, then I'm going to say no to anything else in the next 5 minutes. That's the latest thing I've done. But a tool I use, back to the voicemail thing, is Grasshopper. Do any of you guys use Grasshopper? So I'll link to that tool too. I even have Jessica using red solo cups. Yes, there were many over St. Patrick's Day this weekend. I thought of you. Your branding, see, it's organic. Oh my gosh, you guys, we're at the top of the hour. I honor your time and I value your time. I think this was I feel like, tell me if I'm wrong, that this was a good topic maybe we should bring up again. Again, I kind of overlooked the whole kind of business best practices as a subject. I learned by example, so I'm always going to bring examples. I'm happy to be transparent as heck. I've made plenty of mistakes, and part of this could just be cathartic, where I just vent. But it sounds like this could be something we could revisit again. So if you guys liked this topic, let me know. If any of you ever want to be a guest on future shows where we talk about this topic, Robert, I know you're already a yes. I will absolutely give you the floor. I will set up. We can make this the next show. You can come on. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about, because what I admire from each and every one of you is the way you run your business. Each and every one of you has a very distinct, honorable, all of you have integrity and really amazing best practice. I study every single one of you guys, just so you know, not in a creepy way, but I'm a fan of how you all run your practices. I'm constantly taking notes. Dwayne, awesome show, talk show format, so you can bring in guests. Absolutely. I just thought I'd go solo today, but I will definitely set that up. Dwayne, I'm just going to assume you're a yes. I will definitely set that up next time, and we can talk about this, and we can share any other insights you'd like to, because I know you guys all have your great style. How does that sound? Does that sound good? I was going to show you a couple other things. I'm going to wait till next week. Guys, stalker alert, Jessica's watching. I'm always watching. Insert creepy Bitmoji image. Guys, thanks a million. I promised to link to, I mentioned Cozy Cal, I mentioned Grasshopper. Robert, thanks so much for linking to that study. I'm so going to read it right now. If you guys think of any articles or anything else touching on what we've done, I think I'm going to try to find that entrepreneur article too about saying no nicely. But cool. Keep saying no. Keep saying yes. Guys, awesome. Thanks so much for watching. I will be back next week. If you are watching me and you got through this whole episode, thank you, thank you. On the replay, thank you for that. If you have any questions about or comments you want to make about saying no, let me know and I'll get back to them in the comments. Otherwise, you'll see me next week, every Tuesday, 8 a.m. Pacific, right here on Facebook and then on YouTube. All right, you guys, have a great week. Keep saying no. Bye, guys. I have all the color bots available. I'm going to leave it with that, Dwayne. Send me a link. I want to check this out. Awesome. All right, you guys, and my final PSA, don't live stream and drive. Please don't, because it happens.